right, welcome in another edition of the Goodman and Hummel podcast, and Robbie is back home with a little Scottie Pippen and Robbie Hummel jerseys behind him.
Who's not like the other?
Yeah, just exactly. You could guard just like Scottie. You know, same deal.
Similar players.
Very similar. Very, very similar players.
Hey, we do need to go into, and I do have proof, what we talked about. The vertical jump test.
Let's first tell everybody about Home Field Apparel before we get started, and then we can get into your vertical or lack thereof after that. But let's first tell everybody Home Field Apparel, new sponsor, unbelievable company. They've got premium collegiate apparel. They're out of Indianapolis, comfortable. Robbie, they've got my favorite thing is this vintage Purdue T-shirt that
I
we
knew
gotta
you'd
get
love
you
that.
wearing.
Hey, get me one, and I'll be rocking. I'll rock it for the next podcast.
If I lose a bet, if you can actually jump higher than me with your vertical, I will wear the vintage Purdue T-shirt.
I look forward to the Jeff Goodman, Robbie Hummel decathlon we're gonna have, where I just kick the shit out of you.
Listen,
every event, I'm gonna be like
I
Carl
can take you in
Lewis.
ping pong. Ping pong, I can take you.
My dad played, collegiate tennis, so
right.
I played in high school, but we'll see.
We'll get out there. We'll play some tennis. Anyway, Home Field, unbelievable logos, mask, everything on their T-shirts, sweatshirts, you name it. So again, my favorite thing right now, the Grand Valley State gear. I'm a big fan. I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit. They've got everything. That's all.
My brother played football at Grand Valley State, so I'm glad you're showing the Hummels love here.
They got, you name it, they got it. The big boys, the little guys, they're adding schools all the time. So if you don't see yours, tweet at them and let them know at Home Field Apparel with no E. All right. Home Field Apparel, no E at the end. Remember, you get 20% off the first purchase with Field of 68. So again, Field of 68 at checkout if you go to homefieldapparel.com. So great company, perfect fit for us for sponsorship. And listen, now I want to hear about it. I want to see it before we get on to some serious topics. I want to see if you have improved that 21-inch vertical.
All right. So great news. I improved.
Breaking news.
I went up, which was great.
Yeah.
Now, I saw the video after they taped a couple. I've got them on my phone. I will say I was a little disappointed what it looked like when I saw it on tape. But I have gone up 1.5 inches on my standing vert. So I went from 21 to 22.5. Now, that's not like great, but the good news about this is we did like a max vert where you could like gather. Yeah. I touched 11 feet. I was 28 inches. So like, I might not be going off vert dunking on people, but 11
What's your
feet
standing
is 11
reach?
Feet.
What's your standing reach?
8'9".
8'9", and you're 6'8"?
Yeah.
6'8"?
6'8". 6'8" and a half.
So your wingspan?
My wingspan's like 6'8.5". Like I'm not blessed. Like Etwan Moore was like 6'4", 7'1" wingspan, right? He gets rebounds over the top of you. You're like, how did this dude get that ball? And a lot of dudes in the NBA are like that. That was not me. I was depending on like other factors, like blocking out,
yes.
playing hard,
try to be cerebral. Yes,
you use your brain more than your legs. That's what it is. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
21 to 22.5. Hey. I don't know how you slept that night, but
I mean, I was just happy that there was any improvement, to be honest with you. So I think that, by the time we get to the Olympics, that'll keep going up. The thing that's crazy is I looked up my NBA combine numbers. They're really not that far off. Like, what
was your vertical?
I was like 27 or 28 standing and like 31 or 32 max. So it's not like, that was post 2 ACLs,
right, and
a broken back. Like, so
I
wish
thought
I would
you'd be further now. You're in good shape. You've been working out hard. I mean, this is showing your age a little bit, I think.
I would say. I would say it is.
I think this is showing also you're fine 3-on-3. I'm not out 5, there. It might be over.
Yeah, I'm not out there to be athletic and every once in a while I'll get a dunk or something like that. I'm out there to make shots and playoff close.
There was one in the NBA, Rob. There was one dunk in the NBA.
We could honestly put together a dunk montage. It's not terrible. Like, I know that you're going to hate on this, but if we went from college and NBA and throw in some European clips too, like I would have some decent dunks.
All right. I haven't dunked since.
You've never dunked.
I have dunked. No, I did. I dunked back when I was in high school. I could dunk. College, early college.
You have
early
footage?
College.
I don't believe it if there's no footage.
I'm telling you, I can hit rim now.
How old are you?
49.
That's if you can touch the rim, that's
barely.
That's like
barely.
Dr.
Like
J shit.
Like I think I could like graze the rim now. I'm not feeling great these days. Okay, but 49. I'm like 6'2.5", maybe.
That would be, honestly, if that's not true, bad. I would be impressed. But I don't know if I believe that.
I will next time when we see each other. I think I'll be able to, as long as I can get rid of this plantar fasciitis. Which is
how'd you get that?
I jumped so high. I mean, do you even wonder? Do you even wonder how I got it?
It's hard to get plantar fasciitis when you don't play any sports. Is my point.
And Goran Dragic.
Similar. Like back there. Similar.
Pretty much same thing, right? Same thing. All right, let's move on to the plenty to get to. I mean, we're going to do a season preview. We're going to and we'll talk about some of these things, our biggest storylines, our All-American teams, our most underrated, overrated teams. We will get to those, but we have some news that just broke. We're taping this. We're recording it Sunday night. And just prior to this, Auburn puts out some big news, Rob. They are self-imposing a 1-year postseason ban for this season. Yeah. They're doing it in the midst of the federal investigation, which feels like it started back when you're still playing at Purdue.
It feels like it's over.
Right?
I mean, like at this point, like you never hear about it.
Nope.
It's just
like
a thing of the past.
So they're self-imposing, and I basically said it's a bunch of bullshit. Like, I get that the NCAA is taking forever. I do understand that component to it. And the Auburns, the Arizonas, the Kansases, everybody's frustrated because they want it behind them.
They're in limbo, right?
Right. And it's killing them in recruiting. Although, let's face it, it hasn't hurt Auburn all that much in recruiting. It certainly hasn't hurt USC or Arizona early on when they got Nico Mannion and Josh Green. It's caught up with them a little bit. But I think most of these schools want it behind them. But here's my take on Auburn. Bruce Pearl's smart. He knows this team.
Look at who he lost.
Right. There you go. This team is not an NCAA tournament team. Okay. It's not. I don't even know if Sharif Cooper, their freshman,
the point guard,
is cleared.
Right.
I'm not sure he's cleared yet, Rob. So you add in all the new bodies, everything they've lost in the last 2 years. They're so young. They don't have a starter back from last year. So why wouldn't you self-impose? But to me, Rob, if I'm the NCAA, I'm saying F you. Yeah. I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it. We're gonna hit you with whatever we want to hit you. And you took that year. And by the way, like I get it. Take the year now if you're Auburn. But is that fair to do to these kids that have been through a ton right now with a pandemic?
That's a good point. I want to start with think about who they lost: Isaac Okoro, Samir Dowdy, Austin Wiley, Anthony McLemore, Daniel Purifoy. That's the whole freaking team. That's like the whole core of the roster that played last year.
It's everything.
So
it's everything.
You add a good recruiting class. You got the number 9 class in the country coming in. They're young. You talked about Sharif Cooper and how he might not be able to play. He's not cleared. Right. This is the perfect time. If you're the most perfect time that you would be like, you know what, we're gonna really do the right thing here, and we're gonna have this postseason ban in a year where we might not even get to Wednesday. Like that's still kind of up in the air with COVID. Who knows?
I have heard, Rob. The one thing I've heard is if there's no NCAA tournament, it doesn't count. You can't.
And that's fine. But who knows? This season could be. We could play for 2 weeks and then sit for a month and then play again. Like who knows? Like it's going to be the weirdest season of all time. So you have that factor. You have the fact that you lose all these guys. Yep. And I think, to put it like mildly at best, they were a bubble team. 100%. So it's like if there was ever a year for a coach to be like, man, if we're going to take a postseason ban and get this out of the way, get these guys seasoned, it would be this year. 100%. And I think that's what anybody who knows their roster is going to look at this and say, this is done purely to get it out of the way in a year when they really don't think they can be good.
Here's how you can sell it too, Rob. They don't have a senior in the roster. and everybody gets
red shirts. Everybody
gets a year back anyway.
Yeah,
right.
Everybody gets the experience of playing, and then they come back and lose no eligibility, no harm, no foul of not making the NCAA tournament, and now we're good to go.
Yep. So that's how they could probably sell it, right? The easiest way to sell it is to these kids of, hey, listen, here's the deal. We're going to take it now. We don't know what the season's going to look like anyway. We don't know if we're going to be an NCAA tournament team. How many plus, Devin Cambridge, you're a sophomore this year. Well, you're still going to have 3 years left to make the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And we're going to be better. We're going to be better next year. So I get it. I just, again, I don't like this whole thing of self-imposing. Although I understand their frustration of waiting.
What is the NCAA's policy on self-imposing? Like, you're doing it in order to take a lesser penalty when
you're
the time
hoping.
comes?
I don't think there's a policy. I just think it's these.
But that's how it's traditionally worked. We self-impose. So
Louisville did it. Louisville did it through the whole Katrina Powell. Remember the stripper deal?
Yeah.
They took.
How could you forget?
Yeah. How could you forget? That's right. How could you forget? They took it, and they took the year. Remember when Damian Lee and Trey Lewis were both grad transfers? Damian Lee came in from Drexel. They were really good at that point. They were like on target to be like a 4 or 5 seed, and they hit them in February. So they were going to be a tournament team. They were going to be a pretty good team. I don't know if they're going to be a Final Four type team, but they hit them in February, I believe, early February. They hit them with a self-imposed postseason ban. And then I think the NCAA later came out and made him take down the banner from the team that won it all. Mm-hmm. They made him take
like Gorgie and Russ Smith and those guys. Yeah.
Correct. So could they hit him with more? Yeah, and they probably will. But ultimately, this is what I would do too if I were Auburn, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
It's probably – I'm killing it, but I'm saying it's a smart move. And Bruce Pearl is smart and figures out, you know what? We'll take it this year. Let's hope that this is all we get, and we can move on after this. Yeah. And we can tell all these recruits we hit ourselves with a 1-year postseason ban, and now maybe we can continue to recruit at a high level.
It's over, and now we can go.
Yeah.
It is smart, but it also feels like obvious, right? Doesn't it feel like painfully obvious?
Why wouldn't Arizona do it, Rob? Why wouldn't my alma mater? If I'm Arizona and Sean Miller, I got 7 international guys on my team. They're young. My best player is James Akinjo, who's came over from Georgetown. I do the same thing.
I guess the only downside is that if you self-impose, you're sort of admitting guilt. And some of those programs have said, we've done nothing wrong. Now, I guess you can also always be like, well, it was my assistant. I didn't know. That's total BS.
They know they're getting hit, Rob. They know because they've already gotten the notice of allegations, all these schools. So they know the level 1 violations are going to turn into, and they saw what happened with Oklahoma State, right? Oklahoma State got a 1-year postseason ban for something.
And that's a different
similar.
staff. That's not even the same people that were there. Like, so when you see that has to scare the hell out of these guys. But to me, like, if you're taking the postseason ban, you're saying in a way, well, we did something wrong. And like Sean Miller has been adamant that he hasn't done anything wrong.
That he hasn't.
But I'm saying, to me, like, it falls to the lack of institutional control. Yeah. You are in charge. And I find it so hard to believe, from being around college coaches for the last 14 years of my life, that any head coach doesn't know what his assistants or players are doing. It was, when I was in college, it was like if you went out, it felt like Matt Painter knew. Like, it was like he was like God of Purdue. Like, if you went out,
whatever bar
you were at the frats, if you were at the frats, he knew. If you were at the bars, he knew.
Hey, give me your best story of going out at Purdue. Give me just you're notorious for your good overseas stories.
Yeah,
you have to have a good West Lafayette story of going out.
Yeah.
You're worried now. You're a little scared. You don't want to get any teammates in trouble.
Well, teammates, myself, everybody.
Yourself. Mom and dad are going to listen?
Mom and dad definitely listen.
All right, some other news broke too, Rob. And the other news was Scott Drew earlier tonight. You know the Drew family about as well as anybody. Yep. Announced that he's got COVID. And I talked to him, and he is not going to coach at Mohegan Sun this week. He's probably going to be out for the game at Seton Hall. Hopes to be back for their games in Indianapolis They played a couple big time games there, including Gonzaga. But he said he probably got it from his kids, one of his kids, because they've tested positive.
Yep.
He's got 3 kids, I think 16, 12, and 10 or something like that. And the good news is his players do not, none of the players have it. So as of now, Baylor's going to Mohegan Sun. By the time this comes out, I have no idea if we're going to have a Mohegan Sun. I really don't. I mean, I could see Arizona State or Villanova bailing. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm supposed to go Tuesday. And I don't know. I mean, we had Florida. Florida bailed out of it. They tested positive this morning. So they're out. They're not going to play Virginia. I don't know if that means Virginia's not going to play. We have no idea. And this thing, the 2 words I like to use with this thing, and it's appropriate. I mean, people get on me about it, that I'm Mr. Negativity on Twitter, but it is a shit show. And the shit show is only getting worse because we have 35 teams currently right now in quarantine, Rob, either beginning and whatever it is. And most of these schools are testing once a week right now, the low majors and the mids. They have to test 3 times a week starting next week, which means they can't manipulate the contact tracing as well. Like if you test once a week, the 2 days before you get tested, you can go non-contact.
Yep.
Well, now you're testing 3 times a week during the season. It's much more difficult to be able to manipulate. And the biggest issue, according to Scott Drew and all these other guys that I talked to, is the contact tracing right now, where you're shut down for 14 days if a player tests positive.
Well, there's a lot of schools and conferences that if this Baylor situation happened, they'd be shut down regardless.
Yeah.
So because of the Big 12, they can go. I immediately thought of this weekend's football game with Clemson and Florida State, where Florida State refused to play. And that might not have been more – I mean, I'm sure part of it is always like they could infect our team and we'll have to shut down. Florida State also might have not wanted to get killed by 65 in football. I don't think that's going to be the reason why a Villanova or Arizona State sits out. It would be more on the health reason.
Yeah. They're worried.
They would be worried about, hey, well, if we get this now, we got to shut down for 2
They
weeks.
are, Rob. I've talked to somebody from one of those programs, and they are worried because they're like, well, if Scott Drew got it, how do we know their players aren't going to come down with it in a couple of days? They may test.
They could totally be
today
asymptomatic now, and they could could have COVID, and they could be spreading it in a week, which is when the Mohegan Sun is. So, yeah, I just think when you look back, and part of it's money, you're going to look at the bubbling situation. You're going to say, if we really wanted to do this, this was the only way.
Yeah.
This is the only, because everyone that hasn't bubbled has seen this at some level. So whether it's, Major League Baseball, I think it was Justin Turner getting a positive test in the World Series game, the last game of the season, or, it was always a possibility. This isn't surprising. If you weren't willing to commit financially to bubbling, we knew this would be a part of it. Now, I don't think we knew that this surge was going to be coming, where all of a sudden you've got some real issues here. But it's get ready to see more of this, because this is what we are dealing with for the next, if we get there, 6 months of the season.
My suggestion, and again, a lot of people say, well, what's the difference, non-conference or conference? What I would have done is, even with the high majors, and I know they're taking charter flights, a lot of them, I would have done what the lows and mids are doing, and I would have played back-to-back games against the same team at the same venue. It cuts down on costs. It cuts down on the number of issues that could arise. You at least, all you got to do is take, and I would have gotten rid of the non-conference, just because you're not dealing with apples and apples. With protocol, teams are flying. There's no reason anybody had to fly. There's just no reason. Purdue, you guys could have played IPFW, IUPUI, Ohio U. You could drive to all those schools, get up that morning, drive there, come back. You save money, number one, which could save jobs for people.
Yep.
Number two, again, you're not getting on a plane. A lot of these schools they're not taking charters. They're taking connecting flights to get places. All you're doing, I just went to Chicago, Rob, last week, and like the numbers are crazy there. And I did a good job on the flight. There was nobody in my row. There was nobody within a couple rows. but there's certain things
you're still in a tube.
Yes.
It's just, it's a little unnerving.
Yeah.
Honestly, Purdue could have played a non-conference not leaving the state of Indiana. You could have Evansville, Ball State, Valpo, IPFW, IUPUI, and you're almost with 20 games.
Who cares? You play 5 non-conference. They should have just cut down. And again, I feel like this was the problem. The problem is the NCAA wants to leave everything up to the conferences and the schools instead of saying, this is what we're going to do for the regular season. Yes, we run the NCAA tournament. I feel like all they care about is the NCAA tournament. And like, if we don't have a regular season, who cares? We'll invite 68 teams and we'll still make our, $850 million, from the TV deal.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling that we're here because it's not like with other sports, COVID just happened. There was no preparing.
Right.
You've had time now. Yes. But like you said, like the lack of oversight, the lack of foresight, unifying the entire, country of saying, I don't care if you're the MAC, the MEAC, the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, this is how you do it. And this is how you're going to play. And this is how we're going to get through this. But that would require leadership. Yep. And that's something that we haven't had.
We do not.
So it's not surprising, but it is disappointing because this could totally be avoided. Surge or no surge, if you had really made a plan and really thought about it. And also, like, this is something that we talked about with Ted Valentine, but the officials as well.
Nobody's
you have guys that they should be potted, like we talked about a couple weeks ago. They should be reffing in their locations, and there should be a group of 4 guys that go. But that's not happening either. So
it is not. And I'm just worried that we're going to be at 30. We're at 35 now that are shut down. And that 35 is going to grow to 75 in 2 weeks. And if 75 can't play, well, they're supposed to play for 75 other teams, which means we've got 150 teams that can't play out of 300. Basically.
Well, I'll ask you this. Can teams that are canceled on start scheduling other teams?
And they will.
It'll be a scheduling. Yes. It'll be hilarious to watch the TV schedules come out. Because even now,
I wish I had set up something, Rob. You and I should have set up like a master. And I'm too dumb to be able to do it technologically. But imagine if we had set up something where somebody should be able to do this even now. I bet you somebody could do this in a night to have a master schedule. Kevin Pauga does something like this at Michigan State, but I don't think it's exact. What they should have is every schedule in there, every change that's made, and you could do a search within 100 miles of you proximity wise. Who else has that date or those dates open, and you can
who's open and who needs a game. Yeah.
Right.
No, you would think it wouldn't be hard. It would not be hard to do.
Like somebody
if you have any computer skills.
Yes, which I have none, and you have,
and I don't.
Limited.
So give that idea to somebody else.
Yes, no doubt. All right, let's pretend. Can we pretend for 20 minutes that everything is good, that we're going to have a season, we're not worried about it at all? All right. So like, even when we start with kind of biggest storylines here of college basketball, you cannot use COVID. Okay. You cannot use COVID as nothing COVID related when we talk about biggest storylines. What do you think is your biggest storyline for this season?
I think looking at the big picture of college basketball is like, there's not blue bloods at the top, but there's new blood at the top. Gonzaga is becoming they're not traditionally a blue blood. They're, in my opinion, they're becoming a blue blood type program where every year they reload. They're in the top 5. Like, they're winning like a blue blood, but they're not a traditional one. You got them at 1. You have Baylor at 2. You've got Iowa at 5. Like, we're used to seeing Carolina, Duke, Kentucky. Like Duke is 9. Kentucky is 10 in the AP poll. So to me, like, that's a huge storyline coming into this season of seeing some different people actually at the top. And I really think that's exciting because Duke and Kentucky are still going to be good, but it is kind of refreshing to see some different names up there.
Yeah, I think it's experience. And I think we've seen it for years now, right? We've seen it, whether it's Villanova winning 2, North Carolina winning 1. Experience is going to matter even more this year because of the lost summer. So those teams that bring back everybody that already have their chemistry, that their kids already know their way around campus. They're not worried as much about their classes and other things, the little things. Even adjusting to college, right, as freshmen this year is not easy. I think you're right. I mean, the teams like Baylor, like Villanova, like Gonzaga, like Iowa, those are my top four. And by the way, I've switched gears on my national title winner.
Who are you going with?
I'm going with Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Like I really think Gonzaga is the best team, and I think they've got everything. I think they've got everything you need. Point guard play, Jalen Suggs is absolutely terrific as a freshman. He's the highest rated guy they've ever gotten. He's a scoring point guard who can really get it done. Ayayi has been really good and took a jump, and he can play both backcourt spots. Kispert is a big, strong shooter who's a senior. I love Drew Timme, one of my favorite players in the country. Big, strong, hardworking, big. And they got other guys. I mean, Andrew Nembhard might be eligible. Who knows?
That
Transfer from Florida.
I mean, you would just have so much talent in the backcourt if he can play.
Yeah, and like Anton Watson didn't play last year. He was hurt, and he's supposedly been a beast this offseason. So they've got bigs, like different types of bigs. They've got point guards. They've got wings. They've got experience. They've got youth. They've got talent. They can play different ways, and they got a hell of a coach.
That might be one of the most important things. They've got one of the best coaches in the country in Mark Few,
who works well right now. I think with everything going on in this country and the world, Mark Few is like perfect because he's kind of like this. Who are you taking to win it all?
I'm gonna go. I mean, I like the Gonzaga pick. I think it's good. I'm gonna go Baylor.
Wow.
I'm really impressed with Scott Drew as a coach the last 2 years. And it's interesting because, like we played them in the NCAA tournament my freshman year. So it would have been 07, 08. And he totally known as only a recruiter. And look at their team. Twitty Carter, Lasdarius Dunn, like they had Curtis Gerald's, like McDonald's All-Americans, like studs. So you have that. And then
tell us what happened in that game, Rob.
Well, it's funny because all the media people like you were like, Purdue can't handle Baylor's pace. And we killed them. We beat the hell out of them. Yeah. Coach
didn't you beat him by 30? Didn't you score like 100 something?
Yeah, we scored like 90 points and we got him. Coach, this is funny. Coach Painter told me in film the day after that I had the worst defensive possession that he had ever seen in his life. And it was because Baylor went small. And I had to guard Lasdarius Dunn. I've been guarding think about this is before like the stretch four was kind of like a thing. Like I will say, Coach Painter was an early adapter to that because he was playing me at the four, and I was a guard in high school. And it was hard for me because I'm guarding guys like Marcus Landry and like these big Goran Suton. Like you got to hold your own inside, but you're not chasing these dudes. All of a sudden they're putting Lasdarius Dunn at the four. And they're running them off screens on the baseline.
You're tired.
I got tired and I got lost, and I tried to shoot the gap. Well, he had turned, and he was going somewhere else. He's going out the left side. I'm coming out the right. I'm on the wrong side of the floor. And like in film, they were killing me for it. I was on the wrong side of the court. So but still, like, so to my point, you've got this recruiter in Scott Drew.
Yep.
And then you watch the last couple years, it hasn't been as many super talented. I mean, they still have some talent. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But he's developed players. He was known as a zone coach. Last year, it's like, no, we're going to play man-to-man because our personnel fits it. And they were locking people. So I do think that Scott Drew deserves a lot of credit for, he comes from a family, like you said, of Homer Drew's his dad, Bryce's brother. It's a basketball deal. But I just think that he doesn't get the credit that he deserves when you talk about a good coach. Because you think of, the McDonald's All-American years. And he has had plenty of those as well.
Rob, we all killed him. Everybody said he couldn't coach early on at Baylor.
I think he's a really good coach. And even like when he was zoning, that amoeba zone would give teams fits.
Because there's so much length.
Like they really guard you. And I've enjoyed watching his teams play over the last couple of years. I really think that program is certainly one to watch because of who's coming in. But who they have right now is they're an elite team. You know, they lose Freddie Gillespie, and that's certainly a loss. He was
Tristan
good
Clark retired, but he wasn't Tristan
Right.
Clark.
Right.
He was
right.
just a piece.
No,
You
totally.
know, listen, the one that we didn't pick that a lot of other people are going to pick is Villanova. I mean, they've won 2 national titles here in the last 5 years. They could easily win another one here. Talk about veterans. They've got them. They've got bigs. You know, Colin Gillespie's gotten better as a point guard. They lost Sadiq Bey.
I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl is going to have a freaking monster year.
He's a stud.
Averaged double-double almost last year. He's going to be – he could be Big East Player of the Year. Yep. It would not surprise me if he was Big East Player of the Year. Yeah,
I mean, for a big to be – I mean, you know, Villanova's got to get him the ball, which they will, and he can stretch it. I mean, he's big and he's smooth. He's not the greatest athlete, but, man, he's skilled. The biggest thing with him is just kind of his toughness. Probably got to get a little bit tougher.
Right.
All right, what other storylines are we looking at?
I'm looking at – this is kind of like a free agency preview because waivers are for everybody. So this might be kind of what's coming, which could be probably – to me, I don't love it. I hate that you can just have some adversity and be like, I'm out and have no repercussion. Because there's going to be poaching. There's going to be guys leaving for stupid reasons. Because I do think that if you ask kids that play in college when they've matured and they've moved on a couple of years, most of the time when they've gone through some struggle, they look back and as long as they've, you know,
gotten through it,
it's for the better.
Yeah.
You know, it is for the best. So I think that this could be really not great for our sport, but at the same time, there's a lot of new faces that you know in different places. So I think to me that's a big storyline this year.
I'm going to go with the NCAA and whether they hit any of these schools during the season. Kansas, particularly. I think Kansas is a Final Four contender. We'll go through our All-Americans here in a little bit. I have Marcus Garrett on my all-first team, which I know you're shaking your head like a little bit crazy, but
I don't think it's crazy. I think he could. I've got him on my second team.
Yeah.
I think he's the best role player in the country. So
I just, aggressive. You know what I feel like? Here's my problem. Here's my problem with people doing All-American teams. Nobody values defense. Nobody will put a guy on a first team because he's an elite defender. Well, defense is half the damn game, right? Sure. It's half the game. And he's pretty good offensively. He's not going to put up 15, 18 points. But he's going to average 12 or 13, probably 6 assists, and be the best damn defensive.
And 4 or 5 rebounds, too.
Right.
He'll stuff the stat sheet, that's for sure.
I don't know. I just feel like I say it every year, and I don't do it, which is really reward defense. And, hey, there's a reason Big Doke was picked 27th in the draft last week. It's because of defense, right?
No,
I mean,
totally.
So, anyway, I think Kansas, what happens with them? What happens with Arizona? We talked about Auburn off the top here. USC is another team. They've got Evan Mobley, the second-ranked freshman in the country. Do these schools get hit during the year, or does the NCAA say, hey, you know what? We're not touching any of these teams during the year because of the pandemic. We're going to wait. We're not going to do it. We're going to wait till the end of the year, and then we'll hit everybody in one swoop.
And I think with most organizations, you'd be able to predict that. But with this, you might as well get a roulette wheel out.
Yeah, no doubt.
And literally spin it, and that's what the outcome will be.
I think, Rob, could a mid-major win this whole damn thing? I think a mid-major or somebody out of the realm is going to get to the Final Four for sure. We've seen that.
Who are you thinking? Like Richmond?
Richmond's problem is
what mid-major program are you looking at that they could? I disagree. I don't look at any of those teams.
I just think this year it's going to be built on timing, Rob. Like, again, I know we didn't want to get into the COVID part of it, but I think you have to when you're talking about who's going to advance, whatnot. Like, you're going to have teams play their way out of the NCAA tournament because of being shut down twice, maybe for 14-day stints. You're going to talk about a team playing another team in the NCAA tournament when they've come back maybe a week earlier from a 14-day layoff, right? And a 2-15, right? You're playing a team that just came back and a 15 seed has been playing for the last 2 months, and they're feeling good, and they got everybody healthy. Where that other team, again, some of these quarantines, Rob, these kids can't leave their rooms right now. Now, I think it'll change by then. I hope it'll change where, again, if you test every day, you can test your way out of that 14-day quarantine.
That's a valid point on how the year is going to be, but when you look at talent wise, there's not like a Dayton this year where you're looking at it and it's like, man,
Northern Iowa could be damn good, Rob.
Yeah.
With AJ Green, Austin P could be damn good. UNC Greensboro with Isaiah Miller could be. I just don't think the gap is as big as it's been anyway. And then you throw in all the factors that might come into play this season. I don't know. I just think, listen, I know it didn't happen in the NBA, right? I mean, we had the Lakers win it all. We had the Dodgers win it all in baseball. Yep. We've had, but I think college is just going to be different. I just think you're going to have more shutdowns. You're going to have more guys maybe opt out after a shutdown.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think we even thought about that. We haven't talked about it. That's
think about a kid. Think about if a kid plays his ass off for the first 10 games, and then you have a 14-day shutdown.
Literally, this is like college. This is what college football deals with the bowl stuff. Right. Where we're just gonna have guys ball out for 2 months and then say, "I'm done what I need to do. I'm gone." That's a good point. It
could happen. Realistically, the kid probably won't make that decision, but the people around him, the agents telling him to do it and telling his parents, "Hey, you know what? You're the number 5 pick. You moved up. What do you do? No. Don't come back."
Right.
Be done.
That's definitely happening.
It will happen with
100%. That will happen.
Right. 100%. All right. Let's go through a little bit overrated. Who is the most overrated team when you're looking at either my poll or the AP poll or whatever, or somebody you're hearing?
I'm going with Wisconsin.
Yeah, you hate the Badgers.
No, I don't. I think they're a good team.
You're killing them though.
I know. And I think Greg Gard's a good coach. I think his staff is really good. They have good players, but I'm still surprised they won the Big Ten. I'm still shocked.
You and me both.
And I saw them. I had them. Let's see. I had them at Purdue. They were abysmal. They got ran off the floor by a Purdue team that was not making the NCAA tournament. I watched them play in Brooklyn when they were just awful, and they couldn't make shots on the road. I'm not saying they're not a top 25 team. I just don't know, looking at their personnel, if they are the number 7 team in the country. And maybe they'll prove me wrong. They very well could, because they are experienced and they return everybody. But it's going to be interesting to see how Greg Gard uses Micah Potter and Nate Reavers together, because last year they didn't really play all that much together, and it was a hot topic with Badger fans.
They're going to have to figure that out. But what I will say is Micah Potter, I believe 5th year, Demetric Trice,
they are experienced.
Year.
Yeah,
Ford 5th year, Reavers, Davison 4th year.
But I think when you look at them and you compare them talent wise to Gonzaga, 6 spots separate them. That's not even in the ballpark, right. Or Baylor or Villanova. I just think that there's I look at the Big Ten and I look at Illinois. To me, Illinois has the makings of making a run to the Final Four.
Totally.
Iowa, defensively, you just wonder, because they've been so bad. They've been getting better, but they're still so bad compared to what I don't think
they can win it all.
No. But they do have the best big in the country.
Yep.
But I know I sound like I'm dogging Wisconsin, but I just think from a talent perspective, they look a little different than the other teams up there.
I agree with that. I would. The one that I think everybody's overrating a little bit is Michigan.
They're not even ranked in the top 25.
I think they are, aren't they?
Are they 25th?
I don't know. I feel like they're around there. I think,
Sean D. Brown to me is a big addition to that team.
Huge. But what do they? Franz Wagner's got to be great. He's got to be great. Now, I just want to see Juwan Howard this year. It's like a tale of 2 teams last year. Right. And he inherited, 2 really good veterans that they were able to get out of the gates because of those veterans, because of Simpson and Teskey. And Teskey was really good early.
Yep.
And that's when they did their damage. I just want to see how Juwan Howard is able to do it with a team that, to me, again, isn't quite as experience laden, if you will.
Yeah.
I'll go through a couple
but
more.
they kind of still are. Like Isaiah Livers is experienced. Austin Davis played good minutes for them at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Franz Wagner, I think, is going to be one of the top 10 players in the Big Ten.
The key will be Mike Smith. I think the key might be Mike Smith.
Him and Eli Brooks playing the point, whoever has to. Because can Mike Smith run a team when he's a scoring point guard?
Yes.
But can he
from the Ivy?
Which is the total opposite of what Xavier Simpson was.
Right.
So I think the biggest thing for me is how is Michigan going to run offense when all they did last year was play high pick and roll and let Xavier Simpson you got to run.
Yeah.
And they have some personnel that can do it.
Yep.
They've got some guys that can get out and do it. So
I guess I'm interested to see them. The other one I'm worried about is Louisville. I don't see the depth at all. And Malik Williams is already hurt. He's really the only one who's proven. I mean, they have no starters back. Malik Williams averaged like 8 points. We all think David Johnson's going to be terrific, which maybe he will, maybe he won't. He was super inconsistent last year. And then the big one, and I've got him as a preseason All-American, is Carlik Jones, coming from Radford, where traditionally I did a study this past offseason. Everybody who transfers up a level like that, you can basically cut their numbers in half. And if you do that with Carlik,
that's what you really
cut them in half. That's the average. The average is they go from averaging 12 points a game to 6 overall. If you do that with Carlik, he goes from averaging 20 to 10. I think he's going to be better than that.
How many outliers of that do you have? Are there
there weren't that many.
There's not
I'd have to look at it again, but there weren't that many that went off. There were only a few. Like, I think there were I feel like I looked at 50 guys or 100 guys, and 5 of them averaged more than 12 points a game. The big one was, the kid who went from, I'm going to kill myself for not remembering his name because he's Danny Ainge's nephew. Toulson, Jake Toulson, went from Utah Valley to BYU. He was the most successful, but he played for the same coach.
Yeah.
He followed Mark Pope. So it wasn't apples to apples.
Right.
You're in the same system with the same coach, just at a different level. So it's really not fair. I just think Louisville, again, you got 4 dudes. I love Samuel Williamson. Love him. But don't know what he's going to do. Don't know what David Johnson's going to do. Don't know what Carlik's going to do. And you've got Malik Williams, who's hurt for at least the first month or so. And they've got no other bigs that are proven at all. So I worry about Louisville being like a fringe tournament team, possibly. I don't know. We'll see.
I think that's pretty spot on. All right, let's go most underrated then. Who are you going with?
Texas Tech, I guess.
That's who I was going to say.
All right, I'll go somebody else. I'll go Rutgers.
I like that pick too.
I don't understand why Rutgers isn't ranked anywhere, right?
I want to say they were 24th or 5th in the coaches poll, I think.
I got them at 15.
Yeah.
Again, I think Pikel's a hell of a coach.
Yeah,
great ball coach, right? Just like your typical ball coach. Ron Harper Jr., Geo Baker. I think they got enough good guards. That's my take with
junkyard dogs. Aside from those two,
that's Rutgers.
That's it out. They do. And
they had a top 50 player.
Rui is a big get for them. Miles Johnson is a good player.
Yep.
He's their starting center. He's enormous. He protects the rim. He can score on the block. I think Rutgers is a great choice. Yeah. I think they're definitely an underrated team going into the year. I went Texas Tech partly because the transfer thing is big with them, right? Like with Mac McClung, Jamarius Burton. Yep. They have 3 or 4 guys that are coming in now. Most of them immediately eligible. What's the big fella's name from UNLV? Joel Tomboy?
Yeah. He's okay. I don't know if he's going to be great.
A piece though for them.
The big one they got was the kid from VCU.
Santos Silva is going to have a huge impact. And I think some of their returners too. TJ Holyfield to me makes a huge jump this year. Kyler Edwards is a guy that can do it.
Yeah.
Namari
Terrence Shannon. I think Terrence Shannon's going to be.
TJ Shannon. Yeah, totally. Namari Burnett, highest ranked kid to ever go to Texas Tech. And then you factor in Chris Beard, who I think has done a really good job, a phenomenal job of working transfers in and making them fit. You know, whether that's you look at last year, you look at the year before, it hasn't mattered. He's done a good job with that. So he's building a heck of a program down there. He is doing such a good job.
We'll do a segment at some point where we rank if we want somebody starting a program. If we're an AD and we're hiring somebody tomorrow to run our program, where would you start? And you got to include age and everything like that. Like it's somebody that you're going to build with. You have to have Chris Beard on your list, in my opinion. I
think it would be him, Jay Wright, Mark Few.
Yep.
I'm biased, so Matt Painter.
Yep.
Actually, no, that's not even a biased answer.
Painter's great.
He should be in the top of that list.
I mean, listen, you'd probably go 10 or 15 deep, but I think Beard's got to be in your top 5.
Totally. I agree.
I agree. I think the most interesting thing to watch with this Texas Tech team, though, is Chris Beard and Mac McClung. How does this thing work?
Clashing philosophies.
Yes.
I think it could be good for Mac, though. It could be the structure he needs.
Yep.
Because you see him in high school, he's doing like Vince Carter dunks, and it's
amazing.
He is not getting 21 inches on the standing vert.
Never. He might double that, Rob.
He might. He might have a 40-inch vertical jump. But I think structure could be good. Honestly, it could go either way, if we're being real. It could totally be one of those things where structure crushes his kind of creativity. Or it could be one of those things where it's like, all right, we weed out some of the BS shots that you take, and now all of a sudden you're a more efficient scorer.
I think that
it's gonna be fascinating to watch.
It is going to be. And I just remember being with Beard after they lost to Kentucky last year in Lubbock, and I was with them. We were watching film until like 2:30 in the morning. The game was the game was over by I feel like the game was like a 4:00 game. It was over at 6:30, and we were still watching tape till 2 a.m.
What? Did you watch the game 9 times or like how?
He stops. Like the great thing about Beard is like he gets off on tangents and he'll just tell stories and like see something in his office and he'll be like, Goodman, let me tell you about this. And he'll like tell me about like this whole story about like this like Merle Haggard record that he's got in his office and just go. So he's a different dude. He's a different
40-minute game into a 6-hour film session.
It was amazing.
Really impressive.
I mean, like his daughter came in, he's talking to her because she was leaving. Like it just random stuff. His mind works differently than anybody else's.
Yeah. I mean, that's how his practices are though. You've got, music and it's going from country to hip hop to Bruce Springsteen and it's not like just playing over the speakers. It is blaring. Like it's like blowing your eardrums out type. Like going to shoot around's good because he's good to talk to and he'll give you some good stuff. But man, you might go deaf in the hour you're sitting there. It's hard. It's really hard.
So the one thing he was saying is basically they didn't have a guy who could put it on the floor last year.
Yeah.
They didn't. Like Jamias Ramsey, that wasn't him.
No, and that's kind of what he had to do. Yeah, he's definitely better off the basketball. And
so like McClung, he's got that guy, right? He's got that exactly what he wanted a year ago that Moretti didn't have, that Ramsey didn't have. But again, can you meet halfway with Mac McClung? Can you reel him in a little bit? Can you get him to guard? Or do you just live with the fact that he's not going to really guard, but he's going to exert all this energy on offense and make plays for you?
Who did Moretti go to? Or which Italian team did he go? Do you know?
Don't know. Yeah, I don't remember.
I mean, unless you're signing in Milan or
I think he was older, Rob, and he had that. He's from Italy, so he's going to make more money than.
No, I get it, but like Milan is the team that you'd go to. The other one, Italy is not a great paying country because it's a good place to live.
Yeah,
like Milan's owned by Giorgio Armani, so you play in Milan and you're gonna. I mean, I was there for 4 months and we did more modeling stuff than we did basketball. We'd lose games and they'd like give us gift cards to the Armani shop. Like it was
good.
It was different, but I'm just kind of surprised. And not that he was ever going to be an NBA player. And you're right, he's Italian. I'm surprised that he went back to maybe play for a smaller team. I'd be interested to look up to see who he plays for.
All right, let's go All-American team. I put mine out there already. I'll run through it quickly and get your take and who you got on that I don't. Luka Garza. If you don't have Luka Garza as your national preseason player of the year, to me, you're just looking for attention. Like I feel like everybody, he's earned it. I had him as my player of the year over Obi last year. You're splitting hairs. Obviously, neither were great defensively. That's what I find comical. Everybody killing Luka. The fact that he wasn't good defensively, Obi stunk defensively also. Okay. And they were both great offensively. I just felt like, you know what? Luka played against better competition night out and night in and night out. And that's why I gave him the player of the year. That's why he's my preseason player of the year. Cade Cunningham, Oklahoma State freshman, do-it-all guard. Marcus Garrett, as I mentioned, Jared Butler from Baylor. And then the toughest decision I had, Rob, was at the point guard spot. And I went with Marcus Zagorowski of Creighton over Io. And I did it because I love Zagorowski, and I'm also scared of his parents, who I know well. They live 20 minutes from here. So if I don't have him, I'm afraid his mother's going to come up here and kick my ass.
Show up and let you know how it really is.
Yeah.
Now, did you pick this based off like by position where you went with the center? No,
I didn't. But I want a point guard. Like,
I
try to, but no, I'm not that. I just feel like
you're not locked.
We did that 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
That's changed. Like, I won't go with 5 point guards.
Right.
But I can have 2 point guards on there. I can have one big, whatever.
Yeah. I'm pretty similar to you. I went Luka Garza. I went Jared Butler.
Yep.
Instead of Zagorowski on my first team, I went Io.
Okay.
I went Io DeSumo. I think he's going to have a monster year.
Me too.
I think in transition, he is so electric. And if you don't keep him to his left hand, man, he gets downhill to that right hand, you are in trouble. I went Remy Martin.
Okay.
I went with Remy Martin. I think that the question with him is going to be like, can you run a team? Can you play for people that are not Remy Martin?
Well, that's the key. Which is
easier said than done, right? Like that's he can really score the ball.
But he doesn't need.
Arizona State's going to be really interesting to me this year. I think that this can be a year that really propels Bobby Hurley to kind of take that next step. And then I went Corey Kispert.
Wow.
I think that he's a guy that, and I always reward winning. I always reward guys that win. So I think, he was playing well at the end of last year. I think he's a guy that's capable of shooting like 44, 45% from three. I'm interested to see if Mark Few plays him at the 4 some this year. If they go small and he kind of gets to play at the 4 opposed to just the 3.
Yep.
I think that he could have a big year. So that's my first team. And then second team, I went Cade Cunningham, Marcus Zagorowski. I went Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Marcus Garrett, your boy, and then Garrison Brooks from North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough. I mean, I have like James Bouknight from UConn. I think he's going to have a huge year. Huge, because he has to. Trace Jackson Davis.
He could have been there. Yeah.
Again, going to have a big year. We know that. Trendon Watford. Jalen Crutcher, I love. I love him from Dayton. I think he's terrific. I had Jeremiah Robinson Earl, 3rd team. Remy Martin, 3rd team. I went with another freshman. I only have 2 freshmen, I think, on all these. Brandon Boston, Kentucky. That's my other guy. I think he'll be Kentucky's best player, I guess. But Olivier Sarr should be their most productive guy because he's been at Wake Forest for a few years. He's kind of that veteran.
I saw him last year play in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. He's good, man. Olivier Sarr can play.
Yep.
He protects the rim at a high level. He's got some post moves. He can kind of put it on the floor. That was such a big get for Cal.
Oh,
I mean, they struck out on Matt Harms, and I think people in Lexington were ready to riot. But to me, Olivier Sarr is a better get than Matt Harms. Like that, you talk about upgrading.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that Matt is okay, but I think that Olivier Sarr makes it to where with all these freshmen now, you can talk about them making the Final Four, whereas before I don't think you could have.
No, I think honestly, I would have put them without Olivier Sarr in the area where I put Louisville right now. Like honestly, I think you could have put them as like a, again, just because of how young they would have been in a year in which they didn't have a summer, so to speak.
Yeah.
And they don't have a big without him that has any experience. I mean, their most experienced guy coming back is Keon Brooks, who averaged like nothing. I mean, barely played. He's the only player who played.
Averaged like 2 points a game, but he's
right.
from Fort
So
Wayne, so
I
you know
just,
the Indiana guys are.
I could have seen them not being an NCAA tournament team without Olivier Sarr. I know that sounds crazy, but again,
you think I'm hard on Wisconsin, man? Kentucky fans,
they don't like me, but it's because I just say it the way it is. Like I moved him from 25 to 10, or I think
10 is a fair spot for them right now.
Yeah, I think so. Some people have them, top 5. I don't know how you can have anybody other than 1, 2, 3 of some order of Baylor, Villanova, Gonzaga.
Yeah,
like however you want to do it, and probably have to have Iowa at 4. I feel like it's tough to probably have anybody else. Maybe if you want to go Kansas because of all their success, you could do that. But other than that, I don't know. I'm not going to read it on here, but I got a good long text from Bruce Pearl because I took a few shots at the self-imposing of Auburn. I'll read it after I get off here. But
wait, he texted you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I worked with Bruce for a couple of years doing
series. Yeah, sure.
So, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not reading it. You're not getting me to read it, just like I was not getting you to tell that story.
I know.
Anyway, all right. Well, hopefully, listen, maybe we can even pull off, if I go to Mohegan Sun, or even if I don't, maybe we'll pull off a second, post-Thanksgiving podcast this week after a couple games. We're going to be itching to talk about something. You're going to be bored at home.
I know. Well, actually, no, I'm not. I've got 2 games Wednesday. I've got, I think, a game Friday. Let's see. I've got Michigan Bowling Green, which is kind of sneaky. Bowling Green can win the MAC. They're favored to win. They're picked to win the MAC. So you talked about kind of I wouldn't say Michigan's an inexperienced team, but they are definitely a team that has not played a lot of basketball together. And then I've got Indiana, Tennessee Tech.
Okay. And then what do you got later in the week?
Good question. TBA, but I think a game Friday. And then I did find out, I think I'm doing Iowa State. So that's good.
That's good. That's good. You should see if you can get good old, I'll hook it up for you. You get like George Niang to come on to the broadcast to pop on.
That'd be good.
George can.
Iowa State legend.
He can talk. He'll trash talk. He'll do whatever it takes. Trust me. It's
going to be interesting. I got to set up my kit tomorrow. I've got like the basics here. I've got this desk that I'm sitting at, and like I've got headsets, and I have no idea.
Do you have like multiple screens?
I've got a monitor right here. I've got an iPad. I've got a laptop they sent me. It's going to be interesting. When it gets set up, I'll flip my computer and
yeah, you got to show me kind of your whole setup there. It'll be fun.
It's going to be interesting.
All right. Well, listen, we'll talk, I'm sure, later in the week. If we don't talk before, happy Thanksgiving. I might be celebrating at Mohegan Sun playing blackjack. And if I do, listen, if I play blackjack, it's going to be like this, Rob. So nobody knows who I am. It's going to be this with gloves, the mask.
Are they going to COVID test you at Mohegan Sun?
So I already took one. I took one already negative. And then when you get there Tuesday morning, I'll have to take another one and stay in my room until I get the test back. So I'm going to show up early Tuesday morning. And this blackjack thing is I'm torn, man. I'm torn.
Yeah, that could be a bad look if you like test positive.
But what if I have gloves, mask, the whole gamut?
Please go down there in like a doctor's scrub outfit.
I may put the
shield and the mask.
I got to scope it out.
I'll play blackjack, whatever it takes.
I got to scope this thing out and just make sure it's safe. I don't want to put anybody at risk, but it's hard for me to walk through a casino and not play. I'll tell you that much. Maybe I got to go in the back door.
There you go.
All right. We'll talk.
Have a good Thanksgiving.